Over 2 billion cups of coffee are consumed every single day worldwide, making caffeine the most widely used psychoactive substance in human history. And yet, the vast majority of people drinking it have absolutely no idea what it is actually doing inside their brain. Not even close. In the next 10 minutes, you are going to discover exactly how caffeine hijacks your brain chemistry, why your afternoon crash is not what you think it is, and what scientists have recently uncovered about long-term caffeine use that completely changes the way you should be thinking about your morning cup. There is one mechanism at the center of all of this that most people have never heard of, and once you understand it, you will never look at caffeine the same way again. Let us start with some context. Caffeine has been part of human culture for well over 1,000 years. The earliest credible records of coffee consumption trace back to 15th century Yemen, where Sufi monks used it to stay awake during long nights of prayer. In China, tea drinking has been documented for nearly 3,000 years. Across cultures and centuries, humans have been instinctively reaching for caffeine without ever understanding the biology behind why it made them feel better. It was not until the 19th century that caffeine was isolated as a compound. German chemist Friedrich Ferdinand Runge first extracted pure caffeine in 1819, and for the first time, science had something concrete to study. Caffeine belongs to a chemical family called methylxanthines. It is found naturally in over 60 plant species, including coffee beans, tea leaves, cacao pods, and guarana berries. From an evolutionary standpoint, plants produce caffeine as a natural pesticide. It is toxic to insects at high concentrations, protecting the plant from predators. The fact that humans evolved to seek it out and enjoy it is one of the more fascinating accidents in natural history. Now here is where it gets genuinely interesting. Most people assume caffeine works by giving your brain energy. That it somehow injects stimulation directly into your neurons and fires everything up. That assumption is completely wrong. Caffeine does not give you energy. What it does is block the signal that tells your brain it is tired. Here is how that works. Throughout your waking hours, your brain is constantly burning energy to think, process, and function. A byproduct of that energy consumption is a molecule called adenosine. Every hour you are awake, adenosine levels in your brain gradually rise. Your brain has specific receptors designed to detect adenosine, and as those receptors fill up, you start to feel drowsy, foggy, and less motivated. This is your brain's natural sleep pressure system, and it is a beautifully designed mechanism that regulates your sleep-wake cycle. Caffeine is structurally similar enough to adenosine that it can bind to those same receptors. But here is the critical difference: caffeine binds without activating them. It essentially parks in the receptor space and blocks adenosine from docking. The adenosine is still being produced. It is still accumulating in your brain. But the signal cannot get through because caffeine is sitting in the way. The result is that you feel alert and awake, not because you have more energy, but because your brain cannot register how tired it actually is. But here's what nobody talks about. While caffeine is blocking adenosine receptors, your brain notices the sudden drop in adenosine signaling and interprets it as unusual. In response, it actually grows more adenosine receptors over time. This is the brain's way of compensating, of trying to restore sensitivity. And this is the biological root of caffeine tolerance. The more caffeine you consume regularly, the more receptors your brain builds, and the more caffeine you need to achieve the same blocking effect. This also explains the notorious caffeine crash. When caffeine eventually clears from your system, all those adenosine molecules that have been building up during the hours you were caffeinated suddenly have a flood of receptor sites available. The adenosine hits all at once, and your body experiences a wave of fatigue that often feels worse than the tiredness you started with. So what happens beyond the adenosine system? Caffeine's effects ripple out across several other neurotransmitter pathways, and understanding these helps explain why caffeine feels so good to so many people. When adenosine is blocked, the brain's dopamine and norepinephrine systems become more active. Dopamine is your motivation and reward neurotransmitter. Norepinephrine increases heart rate, boosts attention, and puts your body in a mild state of physiological arousal. This combination is why caffeine does not just reduce drowsiness. It also improves mood, sharpens focus, and increases the drive to take action. Research from Johns Hopkins University has shown that caffeine enhances memory consolidation. A 2014 study published in the journal Nature Neuroscience found that 200 milligrams of caffeine taken after a learning session significantly improved memory recall 24 hours later compared to a placebo group. This was not about being more awake during learning. It was about what happened after the caffeine entered the system. The timing of caffeine consumption matters enormously, and this is where most people get it completely wrong. Neuroscientist and sleep researcher Andrew Huberman, along with other experts in the field, has noted that consuming caffeine within the first 90 minutes of waking is counterproductive for most people. Here is why. When you first wake up, your body is already clearing out residual adenosine from sleep. Cortisol, your natural alertness hormone, is also peaking in the morning. Drinking caffeine during this window means you are not getting the full benefit of its adenosine-blocking effects, and you are also setting yourself up for an energy dip later in the day when the caffeine clears and the adenosine that did accumulate during that window hits harder. Waiting 90 to 120 minutes after waking before consuming caffeine allows your natural cortisol and adenosine-clearing processes to run their course. Then, when you introduce caffeine, it works far more efficiently and the crash later in the day is noticeably reduced. There is also the question of caffeine's half-life. On average, caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 7 hours in the human body. That means if you drink a cup of coffee at 2 in the afternoon, half of that caffeine is still active in your system at 9 in the evening. Multiple studies have demonstrated that even when people feel like they can sleep fine after an afternoon coffee, the quality of their deep sleep is measurably compromised. Deep sleep is where your brain clears metabolic waste, consolidates memory, and performs essential repair processes. Disrupting it has compounding effects over time. Research published in the journal Science Translational Medicine showed that caffeine can also delay the release of melatonin by up to 40 minutes, effectively shifting your circadian rhythm in a way that makes falling asleep and waking up at consistent times progressively harder. But here is what nobody talks about in the conversation about caffeine and sleep. Caffeine does not just affect sleep quantity. It affects lymphatic function, the brain's waste-clearing system that only fully activates during deep sleep stages. Chronic late-day caffeine consumption may, over years, impair the brain's ability to clear proteins like beta-amyloid, which are associated with cognitive decline. The research here is still emerging, but the mechanistic link is real and worth taking seriously. On the positive side, moderate caffeine consumption, generally defined as 200 to 400 milligrams per day for healthy adults, has been associated with reduced risk of several conditions. The Harvard School of Public Health has documented associations between regular coffee consumption and lower rates of Parkinson's disease, type 2 diabetes, and certain liver conditions. These benefits appear to be related both to caffeine itself and to the rich antioxidant content in coffee. The practical takeaways from all of this are clear. Time your caffeine intake to start 90 minutes after waking. Set a hard cutoff for caffeine consumption at least 8 hours before your intended bedtime. If you drink caffeine daily, consider 1 or 2 caffeine-free days per week to allow your adenosine receptor sensitivity to recover, reducing your overall tolerance. Stay well hydrated, since caffeine has mild diuretic effects that can compound fatigue if you are already underhydrated. And pay attention to your total daily dose, keeping it within the range that research identifies as beneficial rather than disruptive. Caffeine is not magic. Before you go, if you learned something valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to HealthCore Daily for a brand new video every single day. We will see you in the next one.